Okay, we're going to do a bunch of small bones now, which will be kind of hard to see. Let's see. But this is a nasal bone. You can see a little bit of that boot shape here. Here is another nasal bone. So you can see it has kind of very sharp edges. And they would fit together kind of like this in the front of the nose. This is the bottom part here, and I'll show you on this skull. You can kind of see better here, right? So they sit. You can see these bones right here, right, going right over the top of the nasal cavity. Those are the nasal bones. So kind of turn him around. That's all you have to know about them. Then the palatine bones. All right, here we have two palatine bones. Maybe you've already, don't know where you are in the lectures, but these are kind of L-shaped bones. Here's backwards L, here's the L going this way, and they would be coming together like this in the hard palate. Actually, I have them backward. Well, they're kind of, the posterior part is facing you. All right, so you can kind of see, and the bottom of the L is called the horizontal plate, and this side of the L is the perpendicular plate or perpendicular portion, perpendicular part. And then if you see here where they come together, kind of in the back, there's a little bit of a point going facing down right now. It's not very pointy, but facing down, I'll show you in another one, is the posterior nasal spine. I showed you the anterior nasal spine and the maxilla. So when you look on this skull here, right, here's where the maxilla was, here's where these two palatine bones are, and here you can kind of see there's quite a little point. That's the posterior nasal spine there. And what you're looking at here is the horizontal plate of the palatine bones, and the vertical plate goes straight up here and here. All right. Then the middle nasal concha. Oh, first the inferior nasal concha, because these are the ones that are by themselves. All right, so here, and you won't be able to see these very well. Again, they're very like curly, scrolly bones. If you could get a good, I don't know if there's a way I can focus on such a tiny thing. Probably not. But you can look on, pick some pictures online, but it has lots of little scrolls in it. And that is the inferior nasal concha bone. When you look inside the nostrils here, so right inside this lower part, this is the inferior nasal concha over here. The kind of curly, little bit of a curly bone you see on the lower part, that's the inferior nasal concha. The one above it that you can also see is the middle nasal concha, which is part of the ethmoid bone, which we'll do later. All right, then the lacrimal bone is just here's it. Whoops, let me show you one more. This is a different model, but it's an inferior nasal concha. I don't know if that helps. Can't really see it very well, but you can see it's a teeny little bone that kind of has some curves in it. All right, then the lacrimal bone is the one that's right in here. You can see it's this little shape right here on this side. On this side, it's this little guy. It's the smallest bone in the face. And it's a very delicate bone. Someone just walked in. And I don't think that's the only way you can see it, is it's on the face there. So we don't have a little lacrimal bone anywhere. So then the vomer bone, this we have a couple models of. So here's one example of a vomer bone, and you can see this is the one when you're looking from like the bottom or the top or the front. Any way you kind of look at this way, it looks very, very thin, and it has two little kind of handles on the top. When you turn it sideways, this is like a sagittal view of it. You see this kind of big flatter bone. All right, that's the vomer bone. Here's another example of one. So it's the same kind of thing, this long, thin bone. If I turn it around all this way, you'll just keep seeing that it's a thin bone. But if I turn it this would be a sagittal view. You can kind of see. This is the part that makes up the inferior part of the nasal septum. And Yeah, well, we'll stop there. We'll leave that with that, I think. I don't, you can, on this, you can just see some of it, right? So it would be, here's kind of the nasal septum, this line right in the middle, but you can't really see where the bone starts, but it would be part of that inferior nasal septum. All right, then the zygomatic bone. Here we have a pretty, this is a little bit bigger, so you can see it a little better. All right. And this is a bone that's kind of what makes up part of your cheekbone. The only thing you're going to have to learn on this bone is this orbital surface. And you can see it's kind of, this orbital surface is where there's a nice little curve. That's where it kind of goes right by the eyes. So that's pretty easy to see. You can run your hand over here really smoothly. Here's another zygomatic bone to kind of give you an idea. And once again, see if you can figure out where the orbital surface would be on this. Right, it would be right here, right again, that kind of curvy part, that's the orbital surface. On the big skeleton, here is your zygomatic bone, here and here, right? So it's kind of your cheekbone, and this is the orbital surface, right? It makes sense. This is the part of it that's smooth, so it kind of is all this right here is your zygomatic bone. All right, then the ethmoid bone. This is the big one that's a pain. But we have two models that are not very good at all of the ethmoid bone. I'll kind of stick it. This is how it would be facing if it was in my skull and I stuck it out here. It would kind of be like this. So when you look at the ethmoid bone, I'll kind of roll it around so you can see it a little bit. There's this pointy out part at the top. That's the crystal galley. So this goes out. This goes kind of superiorly and a little bit anteriorly. It's sticking out a little bit. Here's another one. You can kind of see it's this part here, this crystal galley. All right. The flat part of it, there's kind of something called the cribriform plate. That's a flat part of it. And I don't know if you can see at all, but there are holes in that cribriform plate at the top. There's holes here, and that's where olfactory nerves go through. So this is sitting kind of the nose, the nose. The brain is above and the nose is below. So the olfactory nerves come through the nose going up to the brain. All right, I'm going to show you a better one. The best one we have here's a different skull. All right, and if we pull off the maxilla here, oh, this is nice too because you can kind of see the vomer. All right, this is that vomer bone that we had said was kind of very thin and flat, and that is part of the nasal septum. And then the ethmoid bone is right above it. Here it is. So we're going to dig it out of this skull. All right, this one's a little bigger, a little better to see. All right, so here, well, I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is again, this little pointy part, the crista galli. So this top flat part is the cribriform plate. There's little holes in it again. And then the only other parts you have to know kind of coming straight down from it. So if I'll turn it upside down now. So this is kind of the bottom of it. There's a bit of a, there's kind of right in the middle, there's this perpendicular plate. And you can't, these models never work out very well. I mean, when you're in the lecture notes, you'll be able to see this better. But there's a perpendicular plate that's right in the middle here. Then these are, so here I'm facing it again, kind of facing it, so you're looking at the anterior part. There is the middle nasal concha on both sides and the superior nasal concha above. All right, so this is kind of the middle nasal concha that you're seeing right here, and then above it is the superior. Here's the superior nasal concha, here and here. All right, so that perpendicular plate is kind of right in the center, very, very thin. Again, it's super, super thin. So actually, here's a model where they cut out, this is the nasal septum being cut out, and this part right here is the vomer, and this is the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid. So it comes down very, very flat, and it kind of makes this back part of the nasal septum. This is the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid just being cut out. All right. And then we have the sphenoid bone. we'll do that one. That's the butterfly one. All right, here's one. We have a couple pretty good ones. I think the sphenoid bone, oh, I'll show you. So I'll show you in the skull. We've already started to take apart, right? This was the front. This is where the eyes were. And here you can see the front of the butterfly right here. Here's kind of the body and the antennae, and these are its feet and its wings coming up. So it's kind of right behind where that ethmoid bone was. I will pull it out. Here we go. All right, and I'll show you another one here. Okay, so here's two sphenoid bones. This one, these are the lesser wings. They're kind of the antennae. You can kind of see in different positions. You have these they're little triangles, lesser wings. Then the big guys here, see them in all different angles. They're kind of the big, those are the greater wings, pretty easy to see. All right, and then here's the little pterygoid processes right here. All right. And those have different names. I'm just going to have you say those are the pterygoid processes. Then this kind of middle part is its corpus, its body. Okay. You also have to, you have to know a bunch of foramen here. So kind of if you can see in the lesser wings, this is the optic canal. And so your optic nerve goes through there. It's kind of like eyes of the creature right, and you can kind of see them on this side too. There are these holes right here. So let's see if we can see. Yeah, so you can kind of see right there going through. Not this big one, that's something else, but there's little holes right in the top. Okay, where that is going through, that's the optic canal. And then this is the superior orbital fissure. Superior orbital fissure. I think it's not in your lab notes, but you should be knowing this, the superior orbital fissure right here, because it's pretty big and obvious. All right, superior orbital fissure. Then you have to know the foramen rotundum and the foramen ovale. That's best seen kind of on this side, so we'll go back. Here is the foramen rotundum here. It's a little more circular, a little bit oval shaped, but it's a little more circular. This one right here is really oval shaped, and that's the foramen ovale. And I'll talk about those in lecture. But that's the foramen ovale, and then up above is the foramen rotundum. Okay. Then the only other thing you need to know so this is this sella turcica. You can kind of, I'll put it this way. Yeah, now I think you can kind of see there's kind of a box right here. This is like a little box shape. If I turn it around, you can see that's the sella turcica, which means Turkish saddle. Yeah, here you can kind of really see it. All right, so it kind of comes out a little bit at the top. There's kind of a kind of coming out and then across and then there. So that's supposedly what a Turkish saddle looks like. I'll kind of have you see it from different angles. All right. And in the very top, this one doesn't really have it, but there should be a fossa kind of indentation. That's the hypophyseal fossa where the pituitary gland goes in. All right, I'm going to show you real quick on this one. This is a little bit better, actually, but it's kind of nice to see different ones. So these are the lesser wings again, the little antennae. These are the greater wings, pterygoid processes down here. This is the body then, the corpus. Here we have, so here you can kind of maybe see the sella turcica a little better. This is the sella turcica, and here you can see the hypophyseal fossa. Like there's a nice indentation here where the pituitary gland sits right in there. All right. Then. Whoops, oh, this is where it is. Sorry, I got that wrong. Okay, here's the hypophyseal fossa, right? This is the sella turcica. Here's that nice little saddle, Turkish saddle, and this is the hypophyseal fossa. Then we have the superior orbital fissure. It's kind of a big division between the lesser wings and the greater wings. The optic, you can see the optic canal on this side up at the top. All right, that's the optic canal. This here you can see the foramen rotundum right there. So there's kind of a circle on each side right below the superior orbital fissure right there. And then on the bottom here you can see the foramen ovale. All right, right there. All right, great. that is all of the bones. Oh wait, no, we're going to do a few more of the cranial bones, but I'm going to